Snow apocalypse continues. We're up on top of the mountain now, and as you can probably see looking around, it's not a hideous backdrop. Has it been my glutes have gotten a lot of activity today, hiking around in snowshoes at 8,000 feet or whatever we're at right now. But it's cool, you know. We're probably only gonna do this like once a year, but this is, I believe, the final video in our Snowpocalypse series. What is Snowpocalypse? Basically, this is our concept for, if you could build one rifle out to be your end of the world rifle, to do as many things and be as versatile as you can, what would it be? This particular part of the Apocalypse series is gonna be on the end of the world optic of choice, okay? I have a theory, and it's a theory I feel pretty passionate about on this, and no doubt many of you will disagree with me, but I'm going to run you through my optic setup that is what I want for the end of planet Earth. And before we get into all that fun jazz, it's not going to make any sense, but just go with it. Believe it or not, the 1911 Syndicate is a real estate company. It's odd, but we get to come do these things that we enjoy, and somehow we get to build this little niche real estate company. I say niche, most of our clients are like military, law enforcement. If you would rather do this on, what's the day? Tuesday. If you would be rather doing this on Tuesday than sitting behind a desk and you need to buy or sell a house, damn it, we're the place for you. Go to 1911syndicate.com, operate in a lot of different places. If you don't see your place on there, message us, we can probably still help. Patreon. Look, the Patreon thing, in all fairness, is mostly because you're just trying to say, hey, look, I enjoy the content. I would like to kick you a couple bucks to support. Define a couple bucks. I don't know, 2,000, whatever you're comfortable with, right? It's completely your discretion. There's no minimum as long as the minimum is high. And there's different tiers, and we'll get you some behind the scenes content and all that good jazz. Like, subscribe while you're here and all that good stuff. Without saying the particular optics, I will tell you that for today's video, none of the, actually not true, the optic mounts were donated to the cause by ADM, American Defense Manufacturing. Beyond that, the optics themselves were paid for, so I really have no, kind of interest in any of this. This is basically all stuff that Papa Jake has foot the bill on, so there's that. Now, concept for the Apocalypse optic. You got to go down the rabbit hole with me a bit on this to start to see my logic on it. But if there's one thing I don't have to convince you, the gun community, of, it's going down the rabbit hole. You're good at it, okay? You're real good at it, right? And sometimes a little too good at it, you know what I'm saying? So for the Apocalypse optic, here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the ability to shoot at distance, right? 300, 400, 500, 600 yards out of an AR before really I know I'm not making any hits anyway. So the ability to shoot several hundred yards, but also the ability to deal with maybe a more urban environment or just closer range stuff in general, right? Now, thinking about that logically, you would go, well, just do an LPVO, right? Just do like a 1 to, 4 or 1 to 6, 1 to 8, 1 to 10 even. And you go, I don't disagree with you. That optic could do all those things because you just power it down to 1, right? If you're operating close and you just power it up to 6 or whatever, if you've got to take that long range shot. I agree with you. There's some cons of that I'm going to break down for you. For me, LPVOs are, they're great at distance, but I don't enjoy them for close range stuff because I still have an eye relief that I have to deal with. And frankly, I just don't train with them to the extent that I feel really good just having a 1 to 8 and being like, yo, I can do everything. I can do everything I need to do with it. It's not my preference, right? I would rather leave the LPVO powered up and then have some sort of backup offset system, if you will, for up close engagement. So what I have done is I've opted for a 1 to 6 LPVO, right? And I'll get into the make, model, all that kind of stuff, and then an offset red dot, and we will go through all of that. So let's start with the 1 to 6. So the 1 to 6 that we've got, it's like this tree was made for this gun. The 1 to 6 that I've got is going to be a brand new optic. It didn't just hit the market. You have probably heard of it. Many of you probably not paid much attention to it. I don't know many people that shoot them, but I think that there's a very cool niche for it. Now, so LPVOs, so why Accupoint, okay? LPVOs, rabbit hole, typically have an illuminated reticle, and there's a couple of problems with that. One, usually the battery life on LPVOs is total shit. It's like, 100 hours or something, and it's not even really that bright to begin with. So if you think that on 1 power you're going to use that LPVO like a red dot, you probably got another thing coming. It's just not going to be that bright. Sure, some of the vortex stuff is good, but still not really going to operate like a red dot. I get it. So one, shitty battery life. Number two, but again, even the problem with that, shitty battery life. Shittily, did I say shittily? Shittily battery life? I think that's what I said. Shitty battery life. But even within that, you go, the apocalypse is coming. I'm coming right here for it. You go, I got to carry all these fucking batteries with me. I don't want to do that and swap them out every 100 hours or whatever. I don't want to do it. And I'm not going to do it because I got this, right? But there's that, but also the other rabbit hole here, right, is EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Fuck, I sound like a gun guy retard now. Okay, but what if the nuke hits and now everything with electronic signals is fried and shut down? I'm going back to Broken Arrow. Anyone remember Broken Arrow? Travolta, Christian Slater? Great movie. Does it hold up well over time? No. But that's where I first learned about EMP, and it was awesome. And then Howie Long's in it, and you're like, how the fuck did the football guy get in it? Great movie. Go watch it. But anyway, battery life, EMP problems. That's why I don't really like LPVOs. Sure, the LPVO would work even in an EMP situation, but the illuminated reticle is gone. Okay, so why do I like the Accupoint? Here's why I like the Accupoint, everyone. I'm going to put these notes right between the thigh. I've got a little bit of a thigh gap, so I got to really squeeze to get that notes to not fall over. I like the Accupoint because of this. No batteries. First of all, it's 1 to 6, and it doesn't run on any batteries. But I have an illuminated reticle. Jake? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, kid? Here's what I'm talking about. This son of a bitch right here runs on the Earth. It runs on tritium and solar. That's what this little dial is right here. Basically, you can dial it so you can totally shut down that illuminated reticle. Or if you open it up to receive all of Earth's magical solar powers, then you have a nice illuminated reticle. Now, when you're looking through this bad boy, what you wind up having, frankly, is a reticle that's about as bright as what you're going to get on your typical LPVO. It's a small, I'll double check, but I think it's like a 1 MOA dot. But again, it's illuminated. And you know what it doesn't need? Batteries. And you know what it don't give no shit about? EMP. So, hey, you know what? You want to throw EMP at us? No problem. My Trijicon Accupoint is still going to work, and I'm still going to have an illuminated reticle. About the only con of it is that, well, it is running on all that stuff that's happening up there in space. So at night, yeah, not really going to have an illuminated reticle. I will concede that that is a con of it, but I think that the pros outweigh the cons, right? Now, I can't do everything, everyone, so got to go back to the gun rack. It's only inevitable before that thing falls. Now, the reticle on the Accupoint. So we've got different reticle options. Some don't do anything for me, and some I find interesting. Second focal plane. So basically what that means is that as you power up the Optic, the reticle is going to stay the same. Okay, it's not going to increase in size like a first focal plane Optic, and also therefore it's not going to be quite as expensive, which is going to be nice as well. I actually prefer the second focal plane Optics, but again, I don't train that much on them. So the little dot, right, that's at the center that is illuminated by the sun, 1.25 MOA dot. So it's relatively fine. You're not looking at like a big red dot like you are on an aim point or something like that. It does also have a built-in BDC, bullet drop compensator. So basically, hey, look, if there's wind or whatever, you do have some different dots that are the same size as the illuminated dot where you could just bump over dots and you could play that game. Okay, obviously, train with that, figure out what you're doing, but that is the basic concept of it. My reticle is very simple. It's basically crosshairs, a couple dots. We'll probably flash up a little reticle chart from Trijicon here. so that you can see that. For someone who shoots a lot of long range, the reticle is probably going to be a bit underwhelming, but if you're like me and you shoot mostly red dots, something like this is going to be very intuitive, and it's going to give you just enough data and magnification to do your thing without so much data like on some of these reticles where you're just confused by the math problem that you've now been presented with. The like I said, brightness of the dot, it's not spectacular, but it's enough that if you're out here in the day in frankly very bright and clearly very white conditions, you're still going to be able to pick up that dot. If the LPVO was going to largely be used close range and you wanted something that's going to be as close to being fast like a red dot as possible, there is a version of this that, while it kind of sucks at distance, is awesome at pretty much everything, you know, I'd say 100 and in probably even a little further out than that. They have this triangle post. It's basically just a line of a reticle, and on top of that line, there's going to be a little triangle. I don't know why I'm doing that. You know what a fucking triangle is. A triangle. And it is very fast because it's a very big, bright, illuminated green or red triangle. So it's going to be very fast to acquire targets, but once you're starting to push 200-300 yards, the size of that triangle is going to start to obscure some of the target. Know that going in, but if you're looking for an LPVO that's largely designed for the closer end of engagements or target shooting or whatever it is, frankly, the triangle thing, I think it's super cool. So just my 2 cents on that. And as I said before, you can dial up and down the brightness with that little adjustment knob that's on top. So if you wanted your bright a little bit more dim or whatever it may be, or essentially off completely, you just shut down that knob via, aka it's not picking up any more tritium, solar, all that kind of stuff, and you're good to go. It's $1,400. Street price going to be a little bit closer to $1,000. They do have a 1-to-4 option versus the 1-to-6. The 1-to-4 is going to be out the door in the neighborhood of $600. Frankly, I think a steal. I think it's a steal of an optic, the 1-to-4 that they offer. Capped turrets, so there's no issues there with stuff getting adjusted. I mean, it's Trijicon, so I would consider it durable. Glass clarity. Hey, look, I got shitty eyes, but to me, looks good. I mean, if you're used to shooting Schmidt and Bender or something like that, it's probably going to look like shit to you, but, you know, to me, looks perfectly fine. It is setting on a... Optic is sitting on, and while donated to the cause by ADM, it was kind of per my, you know, proposal and request of like, look, I'm doing this end of the world optic thing. I need a mount anyway, and they were just nice enough to accommodate. But it is the ADM, it's the Delta Scope mount, cantilevered, but it's 1.93. Okay, so it's a 1.9 spine position, more of a heads-up shooting posture. The 1.93 is going to work very well. I was a little curious to see how it was going to work on an LPVO. Big fan. It's working good for me. And 1.93, according to ADM, is about as high as they've found it being effective to go on LPVOs. So that's that. Okay, dot. So basically, hey, look, if I've got my optic powered up top to 6 power, hypothetically, the red dot is so that basically I can just cant the gun at a 45 there, and now I've got a red dot. Frankly, most of the footage that you will ever see me shooting this gun, I'm going to be shooting the rifle canted like that because most of the stuff I shoot is 100 yards and in, and frankly, at 100 yards and in, I'd rather just shoot a red dot versus messing with magnification that, for me, is slower to acquire. So let's talk a little bit about the Holosun 507C and why I picked that. Again, I'm kind of making a pitch for these optics here, but, you know, I paid, you know, I put my money where my mouth is, like they weren't donated, if you will. So I bought them because I thought that they were actually the best fit. 507C. Look, it's primarily designed as a pistol red dot, but as an offset red dot on rifle applications like that, I think it's a really, really good system. I will tell you, Holosun as a company, I have been resistant to for a long time. And to level with you, it's because everyone was like pushing them on me. And this was about ballpark 4 years ago. And I finally said, okay, cool. And I got basically like an aim point equivalent Holosun, and I threw it on top of an AK. Literally by the time I was done zeroing the AK, the Optic was dead. And I was like, well, that's not a great first impression, given that I didn't want one, but the shop sold me on it anyway. I think that Holosun's come a long way since then. We will have at least one Holosun review coming up that I'm aware of. I'm really coming around to them as a company because, look, it frankly seems like they're doing really good shit and at a very good price. Some snobs like me are going to be more drawn to Trijicon, but look, there's going to be some downsides to Trijicon. So here's the reasons why I prefer that 507 over the RMR. And look, I will tell you straight up, there's a 2011 that I have coming that I'm putting a Holosun on, and the quality of that gun, you would think like you better put a good optic on it. Look, I still chose to put a 507 on that because I actually think it's the best platform right now. But here's why I like the Holosun over the RMR. Solar fail-safe, and that's probably the best reason for my apocalypse optic setup, into the world optic, that I wanted it. Because look, if shit goes off, like the battery dies, I've still got solar as a backup, right? So essentially it has a little solar panel on top of the housing there, so that, like, look, as long as you've got some daylight or something, you're gonna have an optic. Minus EMP. Kids, hate to break it to you, EMP hits, Holosun shit in the bed. Trijicon's still good to go. Holosun, shit the bed. But if the battery died, you still do have solar as a backup there, and I think that's a huge, for me, it's a huge selling point. Automatic brightness adjustment, I really like that. So look, if you've got sun, you're in very bright conditions like this, it's just gonna basically power all the way up. You go inside to a more dim environment, it's gonna start to power itself down. It's a feature that at first I was a little hesitant to, because I'm as a control freak, I like having that control of how bright that dot is. I've actually come to enjoy it and find it to be actually very accurate, and it kind of just finds this perfect sweet spot. Like whenever I look through it, I'm like, yeah, that's about where I'd want it right now. So I do, as it turns out, like it. Shake awake, not to be confused with shake weights. Basically motion will turn the dot back on, so it will basically power itself down to conserve batteries, and then as soon as it gets a little, I don't want to shake it out of the tree, but it gets a little shake or an earthquake happens or whatever, it'll power itself back up so that you are ready to rock, my friend. Great feature. Multiple reticle system, love it. Maybe the best feature, the fact that I've got, look, just a 2 MOA dot or a 32 MOA, basically EOTech circle, but without the dot in the middle of the circle, or just a standard EOTech reticle, that 32 MOA kind of donut of death with the dot in the middle of it. That's where I've left it, because again, I'm using mine as a 100 yards and in, I need speed on my side, so that EOTech reticle is what I very much prefer. Multiple reticle system, it's phenomenal. Look, street price on these bad boys is about 275 bucks. That's what I paid for mine, was 275. RMR, you're looking at like 600 bucks. And to me, if I look at it and I go, look, we're talking twice the money with, for me, significantly less features, and didn't even bring this up. Didn't even bring it up. What am my notes are failing me. No, never mind, the note's right there. I just skipped it, sorry. The battery on the Holosun can be changed without having to take the optic off of the gun. RMR, how the hell Trijicon gets away with that, where it's like anytime you need to swap a battery, you have to take the optic off, change the battery, put the optic back on, which means now you're going to need to re-zero your dot, or at the very least confirm zero on paper. It's a huge selling point. And all of those benefits that you get on a Holosun that you don't get on an RMR at half the price. What are we debating anymore? Like, I mean, seriously, I feel like we're kind of at this point in the gun community, Holosun versus RMR, where it's like, what are we debating anymore? As long as it works and it's reliable, which mine has been, I'm disregarding the thing 4 years ago. I think it was early in their life cycle and, frankly, a different optic. So I chalked that up. I don't really see what we're debating anymore. 50,000 hour battery life, 12 brightness settings, QVC, 2 of which are night vision compatible, everyone. And all of that sitting on an ADM. Now I really do feel like I'm just selling shit. All that on that 45-degree offset mount. Also, in all seriousness, I mean, I'm joking, ADM gave me the mounts, sure, but like, you know, the 45 offset is really nice. They've got a 33-degree version as well, so it's going to be a little closer to the Optic. You can debate whether you would rather go 33 degrees, 45 degrees. I just said 45, just I don't, you know, honestly, I don't know why. I just did it. You know, it just felt right in the moment. But look, guys, that's the system, okay? It's super cool. Like, look, I can take this same rifle, I can shoot it at 700 yards. I can, you know, with an LPVO powered up, I'm just leaving that thing powered up to 6. Red dot obviously is a red dot. So, like, look, I've got a lot of versatility. It's a super, super cool system. I am confident telling you my end-of-the-world optic setup is solid. Could you, the only disclaimer would be, well, hey, look, if you've got like $5,000 to spend on your end-of-the-world AR optic setup, you may be able to do better. You probably could, but it's like, look, at 14, 15, you know, optics, everything, mounts, everything included, 1,700 bucks all in. It's pretty reasonable. I know some of you are like pissing yourself, like, how could you ever spend that much on an AR optic? It's the end of the world optic setup, everyone. Okay, so relax a little bit. So I'm proud. I'm standing by my system. I think I've chosen wisely. And I think you could do wisely to choose the same setup, everyone. All right, that's our apocalypse series. I think this is probably the last video in the series, so I hope you have enjoyed it. Hopefully the apocalypse doesn't happen, but if it does, you're gonna see me running around the streets with that. All right, see you, everyone. We're talking about the CGS Group Helios 556 QD suppressor.